This video is sponsored by PelucidFX.com. Hi, this is Sive Morten with the daily update on EuroFX. I post my exclusive market overviews with the key political and economical events, charts and important levels on the ForexPeaceArmy.com forums weekly. This short video is a response to rapidly changing situation on the currency markets and should help you to stay on top of the game and be profitable. I suggest you to visit ForexPeaceArmy.com forum and read my analysis for the week before watching this daily video. So now let's discuss the situation on the gold market. Well guys, market participants were really impressed by the data that were released on the previous week. I'm speaking about the gross domestic product as the non-farm payrolls release, and gold markets really turns to the downside and now is showing the impressive action. Well, on the previous week we said that this move could be triggered by a bit unnatural appearing of the engulfing pattern that on the weekly time frame that in fact has appeared in the some so-called free area where market neither stands at resistance nor at some ABCD target. Just in the free space, market has turned to the downside, and that was really a bit curious. When the market shows such sort of the unnatural, unreasonable reversals, and when that indicates about the sudden changing in the sentiment, these moments as a rule very significant and very strong signals, and they tell us about possible continuation with the pattern that has been formed. As we have got this engulfing pattern on the weekly time frame, market now is standing with this action to the downside. And the target of this pattern, as we will follow, just the engulfing pattern should lead us somewhere in the area of these previous lows, slightly higher than they stand. Also, on the daily time frame chart, we see this ABCD action in progress. ABC top. And take a look, market on Friday has hit the minor 618 extension right around the 618 support 1295. That is also was the minor target of this ABCD pattern. So market now stands at some support. Slightly lower stands the very significant and important trend line. I just contract the chart, you'll see it. Okay. Recall our discussion of this triangle that now is forming on the gold market. And this trend line is very significant, because if market will pass through it, it probably will lead it right to these lows at minimum, because that will be the downward breakout that could really accelerate the move to the downside. But at the same time, in the short-term perspective, this line coincides with the weekly pivot support one, and that will be the next area of support around 1270 on a road to the downside. The next target of this ABCD pattern stands right here, is 1240. That probably will be our trading field for the coming week. So we will deal probably with these supports and with this target if market will pass through it. That's what about the targets. Now, how we could take the short position with the possible move to the downside. Let's take a look at the 4-hour time frame chart. So now we see nice thrust down. As we said that market has hit just a minor target of the ABCD pattern, just the 618, the retracement to the upside hardly should be significant. Very often market, after the hitting just the 618, market shows a minor bounce to the 38 resistance of the most recent swing. And from that standpoint, personally I like this area. That's not bad. Resistance, this is confluence resistance on the follower time frame chart, 1308, 1311, and take a look. Weekly pivot resistance one stands at the 1315, very close to this confluence resistance, so that will be some kind of the resistance cluster resistance area, and the weekly pivot resistance one will be simultaneously the indicator that should hold market if market is really still has the bearish sentiment, because we know that when market stands in the bear trend, very often price retraces to the weekly pivot resistance one. Other words, weekly pivot resistance 1 has to hold upward retracement if bearish trend is still intact. Until market holds below it, we could say that market is still bearish. If market will pass through it and accelerates above the weekly pivot resistance 1, this tells us something different. But let's hope that this will not happen. Well, anyway, that area is very suitable for searching possibility to short entry, and this is a really significant resistance that market should not pass through just occasionally. So it should hold if market is really bearish and price really should continue move to the intends to move to the downside. This area should hold any retracement to the upside. That is what we were looking for on the gold market. Also, guys, on the next week. Also, guys, I suggest you to read our fundamental part of the research, because currently it's very interesting, the CFTC data, because although recent data indicates the contraction of the net long position, this contraction is really significant, but what is interesting is that open interest doesn't grow. Usually when some trend starts to appear, and if this is the true trend, open interest is growing because more and more traders open new and new positions. The large participants take more and more contracts on the futures market and take part in this new trend. But currently we do not see that. I suspect that this usually when the open interest doesn't support the trend, it could mean two moments. First moment is that this is the fake trend, and as this trend is not supported by the open interest, it should finish soon. It's some sort of the fake trend, and very often hardly it will continue really significant. That is some sort of action that we see here with this upward action. So if you take a look at the open interest, you'll see that with this upward action, neither net long position has increased significantly, nor open interest has supported this trend. That tells us that this trend was not very stable from the fundamental point of view. Another reason of that moment could be is that investors just do not carry to put money on the market. So if you'll take a look at the daily time frame, as I said, you'll see that market is in consolidation. So that is in some sort of the tight consolidation from the long-term perspective. And the major event, action on the market probably will happen when the market will pass through this trend line and maybe even for these lows. In this case, the really big action could start, and only after that maybe market participants will increase their money, increase their assets on this market, will start to put more and more assets on the gold market. Well, that's why, because what does open interest mean? The open interest indicates the open positions that hasn't been closed by offset trades and those who hold the open positions on the market. And if there was no positions, new contracts were opened within some period, in this case open interest will not increase, even if the net long and short position could change with the time. So number of contracts could be closed and opened, but if the absolute number of the contracts stands the same, the open interest will not increase. It means that position could change with the same amount of money on the market. And when the open interest starts to increase, it means that new money starts to inflow on the market. And that is what we should keep an eye on. That is what we would like to see if we will if we would like to possess ourselves with this trend. Well, on the next week, this area in fact will be not very significant. Our trading field will not be very significant, and we could not take into consideration this moment. But if we would like to take the position with some extended targets, if you trade on the high time frames, that will be really important moment. And from the fundamental point of view, we should keep an eye on this really very useful indicator as the open interest. So that's been said, in the nearest perspective we have the bearish context, and we hope that this move will continue, and we will try to take the any rally if it will happen, of course, in the beginning of the week to the upside. I hope that this rally will be somewhere to an area around 13.10, 13.15. I will try to use it for taking the short positions.